There are many reasons why athletes develop the fear of failure, but by identifying the causes of the fear of failure, we can work better on helping an athlete overcome the fear of failure. Hey there, I'm Eli Strawman, mental performance coach and the founder of SuccessStartsWithin.com. The fear of failure is one of the most common mental game challenges or mental blocks that I see in the athletes that I work with. And whenever I'm working with an athlete, we first need to identify what's causing their fear of failure, and then we can work on overcoming that cause. Because when the fear of failure happens, it's all going to have to do with what they're thinking about, what they're worried about, those feelings that they think might happen if they make a mistake. And if we can work on altering those feelings, reducing the fears that are associated with those things, then we can reduce this fear of failure and help them perform freely. The first reason that athletes develop the fear of failure is perfectionism. Perfectionism is the need to be perfect, the need to perform perfectly, and the need for other people to see you as perfect. When you need to be perfect, you don't allow yourself any opportunity to make a mistake. And if you don't allow yourself any opportunity to make a mistake, then of course you're going to start being afraid to fail. Because if you fail, it means you weren't perfect. Number two is going to be shame. Shame happens after you make a mistake in the past or after you've had a bad game in the past. This may involve your coach yelling at you, or you feel a little embarrassed because you feel like you let your team down, or you feel like you let your parents down, or you let yourself down even. And when you feel that level of shame, moving forward, that's such an intense negative feeling that you don't want to experience it again. So what's going to happen? Then you're going to start fearing making mistakes and be afraid to fail because you don't want to experience that shame. Number three is going to be negative self-talk. Negative self-talk is going to drive the fear of failure because in the moment, if you're speaking down to yourself and you're saying, I can't do this, today's not my day, I'm not feeling it today, then you're going to be more afraid of making a mistake because in your mind, you're seeing yourself as probably going to make a mistake because you have that negative self-talk. But very similar to shame, if you have negative self-talk after you make a mistake or after you have a bad game, that's going to cause you to feel very negatively as well. And then what can happen is you want to avoid that, self-deprecating voice in your head that happens when you make a mistake, so you start to adopt the fear of failure. Number four is that you're afraid that if you fail, it's going to negatively impact your future plans. This can be especially true if you're getting scouted in high school, let's say, and you go to a camp or you go to a showcase or you have some scouts coming to watch you. Then you feel like I have to be perfect today. And if I'm not perfect today, all of my goals aren't going to happen and they're going to think I'm a lousy player and, I'm just not going to keep being able to go on playing and I'm not going to make it to college. The same thing happens no matter what level you're at. But when you think that if you make one mistake, it's going to negatively impact your future plans, then you start to develop the fear of failure. But right there, we start to see where this fear of failure actually is going to hurt you because then you're going to play timidly. And if you play timidly, even if you don't make a mistake, you're truly not playing up to your capabilities and to your potential. So you're really not showcasing yourself as well as you can showcase yourself anyway because you are afraid to fail. Number five is seeking social approval. If you feel like your confidence comes from other people, so you feel really confident if your coach tells you you did a good job or your teammates tell you you did a good job, but if you don't get that from them, or if you get the alternative where they say you didn't do a good job, if that makes your confidence plummet and you have very fragile confidence because of that, then this can lead to the fear of failure. If you need that social approval, if you need the approval of your coaches, your teammates, your friends, your parents, if you need that approval from anybody, then you're probably going to adopt the fear of failure because you know that if you make a mistake, you're not going to get their approval. So now you start to avoid making mistakes because that's a lot easier than handling not getting their approval and feeling like your confidence crumbles. Number six is that you may feel that you failing is going to cause somebody else stress. This might be the stress of your coach. This might be the stress of your parents, let's say. If I've worked with athletes who have worried about all their parents' money and sacrifice and time they've given them going to waste if they don't reach their goals or if they don't play well this game. Then what can happen is they have that fear of failure because they're worried about that, and then they truly don't play up to their potential because they are afraid to fail. So if you feel like you're going to cause somebody else stress or somebody else is going to feel upset if you fail, then that can lead to the fear of failure as well. Another reason athletes develop the fear of failure is taking a failure too personally. This happens when the athlete doesn't learn from their mistakes. So instead of a mistake being something that they can analyze, they can learn from and apply and improve their game moving forward, that mistake becomes a reason why they're not good enough. And they take it very personally, meaning them as a person was not good enough that day. Rather than saying that was just a mistake I made in my game, it becomes so personal. And when it becomes that personal attack on yourself, meaning you aren't good enough, well then of course you're going to adopt the fear of failure because you don't want to feel like that again. Reason number 8 is low self-confidence. If you doubt your skills and you second guess yourself going into a game, then you're going to have the fear of failure because you're focused more on the possibility of making a mistake. And when you focus more on the possibility of making a mistake, you're going to worry about failing and you're going to fear failing because you don't have that trust in yourself and that sense in yourself that you are capable of succeeding and you are going to succeed that day. Reason number 9 is critical parents or critical coaches. I see this a lot in terms of the social approval aspect combined with this. If you have overly critical parents or coaches and you know that if you make a mistake, they're going to criticize you, they're going to get on you about that mistake, then you're really going to be afraid of making the mistake because you don't want to have that happen because it's just not a fun experience to have. And then number 10 is going to be trauma. Trauma is very similar to the shame that I talked about earlier, to the negative self-talk that I talked about earlier, because when you experience trauma in your sport, and trauma in your sport, it's going to be any situation where you experience intense negative feelings. The trauma can be an injury, so if you have an injury during your sport, then you're likely going to fear making a mistake in the future because you're going to have that fear of failure, which combines with that fear of getting injured again. But also trauma can happen in sports if you have a very intense negative experience that you judge to be an intense negative experience because of mistakes you made. Whether it's because your coaches yelled at you, you lost the game for your team in the final minutes, or you made the final out, whatever it may be. But if you have that trauma and you experience that trauma, you're going to carry that with you moving forward because you don't want to relive that trauma, so you're going to be afraid to fail. Now, if you're currently an athlete who's struggling with the fear of failure, what can you do about this? Well, you need to begin taking steps on working through your fear of failure. Because unless you work through your fear of failure, it's always going to hold you back and you're always going to be frustrated. So if you're interested in learning more about one-on-one mental performance coaching to help you overcome the fear of failure, build confidence, and allow you to perform freely, then go ahead and click the link that I put in the description below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I put out new videos each day on sports psychology and mental training. Thank you for watching, and I wish you the best of success in all that you do.